I was planning my family around my life when I should have been planning my life around my family. And so, that's a hard lesson learned. But again, I can't look back and, get stuck in that rut of thinking about all of that. I just need to move forward, and I need to make the best of tomorrow and the day after.
Hey, how are you doing? This is Ronnie Rivera from Rebounds podcast, where the power of the comeback is the most important thing, and the story is why we're here.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hey, Liko. How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
So a couple of things. One is, first of all, thank you for coming on Rebounds podcast. We have been working on this, you and I. For some of you guys that do not know or are not aware, we've been in pre-production for this for about 6 weeks, give or take. And when I say we, you actually have your own studio here. Liko Entertainment Studios, I suspect, is the name of it, or at least close to it. I always get those things wrong.
It's all right.
And we'll get it right eventually. But we have had an opportunity to work together, and you are, at the end of the day, the producer for what is going to be an incredible podcast and an idea that we've come together on for a number of weeks to kind of tell people stories and their narratives. And I think for me, the reason I'm having you on the show, on my first show no less, is that I walked into your studio and said, hey, I want to do this. You believed in the project, and we've kind of been talking through this process. And so this is kind of really just an extension of our pre-production over the last couple of weeks. But I think before we get started, what many people do not know here in Pensacola, Florida, is that you actually have another name. Your name is not just Liko Crump, which I had no idea until
That's true.
Yeah. So tell us what your name is.
All right. So my first name is Atarguha.
Yeah.
The southern translation is Atarguha.
Exactly.
And that is a name I don't use often because it's not very user friendly.
Yeah.
I'd have to spend, a few minutes just trying to pronounce it. And then, it would just go down a rabbit trail, and we're talking about my name. So Liko is my middle name, and it's way more digestible for most people. And that's why I use that. Back in high school, I actually was ashamed of it as a child and just kind of growing up or whatever. And then finally I kind of got over myself and I told my senior homeroom teacher, I was like, look, it's really important that you say my name correctly when I walk across the stage for graduation. So I'll teach you how to say it, and then that'll be when everyone actually hears my name, because I wouldn't even tell people what it was. But I outgrew that, and now I've embraced it. And Atarguha Liko Crump. That's my full name.
Like a lot of famous people in our community, or any community, I suspect, you kind of just go by Liko. And so you got this one title, and it's more than a name. It is a title. It's Liko. So like every guest from here on out, we're going to take a look at your resume and
Sure.
and kind of look and see where you come from, where you're going, and who you are, and those kind of things. And I think the question I always like to start out with is, who is Liko Crump?
Wow, who am I? So I grew up in California. I wasn't born in California. I was actually born in the Philippines. Grew up in California. And when I was 13 years old, my mother and I moved to Pensacola, Florida. Her mom was here, and she was having triple bypass surgery, and it was going to be pretty intense. So my mother was going to help support her and, get her back to health and everything like that. Well, my grandmother had a full recovery, got married, moved to Texas. So my mom and I stayed, and for the most part, since '91, I've been here in Pensacola, and it's now where I call home.
Yeah, it's pretty. Pensacola is, for those of you that are just joining the podcast for the first time, and you're not familiar with Pensacola, Florida, it is absolutely one of the most incredible places to live and grow up and work and play in the nation, and I suspect in the world. It's a beautiful place with white beaches, a beautiful downtown scene. But Enough about Pensacola. Let me ask you, you just looking at your resume, I have it blocked off in 3 different ways.
Okay.
It's the way I'm thinking.
Sure,
You've
sure.
done food and beverage, which is, by the way, what everybody does at some point in their career. No matter who you are in Pensacola, you've spent some time in food and beverage here or around the area. You work for Navy Federal. I think a lot of people are not aware that you work for Navy Federal. And, of course, your marquee job before now, of course, is you worked for the Chamber of Commerce here in Pensacola, Florida. And I think most people know you from the Chamber. But all that said, what does a typical day look like for you now? Let's talk about a typical day now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I have 2 types of typical days. Every other week, I have my son with me, and he's 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And so the weeks I have him, those typical days are very different than my typical days on the weeks where I don't have him.
Right.
So let's start with the weeks where I do have him.
Sure.
We wake up very, very early, and we get up. We need to leave the house by 6:30 in the morning to get him to the bus. And his school that he attends is actually in Santa Rosa County, and that's why we have to wake up so early. And we live far away from the bus stop. Yeah. And so that's how.
And for you guys not aware, Santa Rosa County is about 30 or 45 minutes. What is that to the east of us from where we are here? So it's fairly close, but nevertheless, it's a commute, if you will.
Yeah. If they didn't have a bus service for that school or transportation service, it would be probably a 45 to 50 minute one way trip that I'd have to make 4 times, throughout the day to drop him off and pick him up. But so that's how I start the day off. I get him launched off to school, and then I have to pick him up at 3 o'clock. So that time between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. is the magic moments where I have to take care of all my business. And then so I might be doing, appointments. Maybe I'm catching up on stuff at the house. But that's when I start getting into my core business things that I offer, my services. With my business, I offer photography, videography, podcast production, as we're doing right here.
We are.
And then live event production as well.
Yeah.
With audiovisual. And so that's when I take care of all my business is between those times. If I want to meet up with someone, that's usually the most convenient time because after I pick him up at 3 o'clock, now it's me and son time again. So we take care of his schoolwork and I spend time with him. And then, next thing you know, it's dinner and then it's time to put him to bed. And I'm usually pretty tired by that time too. So I go to sleep. So that's one typical day when he's with me, and then I'm sure all of the parents out there can relate.
Yeah, I think what I think some people may be surprised about you is that you are a father. Like you are a father above anything else. That's what I've noticed through the process with you is that you are absolutely, you have this business and you have this studio and you have these things, but you're a very committed father. And I think that is commendable just because I don't know that we have enough folks out there in the public space that are hey, I'm a father first, and everything else is second to that. And I think that's very commendable, of course.
Well, thank you for saying that, Ronnie. You're 100% right. And we'll talk about this as we get down through the podcast. But I am a father first, and it takes precedence over all the other things. And it's one of the driving factors on why I actually went independent and, left my day job at the chamber was so I would have even more flexibility than I did there to be able to spend time with him when I need to, when I want to be able to attend all of his school events, to be able to take him to the bus stop and to be able to pick him up and do whatever I can do to not have to get a babysitter and to not put him with someone else. And he's growing up fast, and he's only going to be a child for so long. Yeah, and so these are some golden moments that I can't get back. Yeah. And so yes, that's absolutely right. I'm father first over all things.
They say that the days are long, but the years are short when you're a parent, and so enjoy those days while you can. It's important. Yeah. But let me ask you a couple of things before we move on to sort of your overall arching story. Is that if somebody were to meet you today and they just seen you on the street for the first time, they walked up, what are some of the things that they may not know about you just immediately? We know you're a father, we know you're a business owner, but what are some of the things that they just may not know about you?
Let's see. If I was to meet someone today, the first thing that they would know about me is, or the first thing they wouldn't know about me is that I've already forgotten their name.
Yeah.
So
Good job, man.
I'm really bad at remembering people's names. So, even sometimes I'm sure there's going to be a time when me and you are going to be together in a public space, and then I'm going to introduce you to someone, and then your name's going to escape me. It's just one of my things.
Yeah. I don't know if it's getting older or whatever, but I am the same way, man. So I'm not really sure what's going on. And I can know people like you say, I've known this person for a number of years. I've had a great relationship. All of a sudden, it just slips my mind. So.
But when I first meet people, I find myself, thinking, wait, they told me their name, and I don't remember. But we're in a deep conversation right now, and we're learning things about each other, and I don't remember their name. So that's one thing. Through my life, I actually have had so many different experiences. I've worked in different industries. So maybe they didn't know that I used to paint cars, and maybe they didn't know that I used to be a full-time musician.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe they didn't know that I used to be really involved in like a praise and worship band, many years ago. So those are maybe some things that they would not know about me, and they've been kind of so far removed that they're not part of my daily life now.
Yeah. Well, if you had an opportunity to sum yourself up in a couple of words, what would those words be? How would you sum yourself up? And that's hard to do. You're asking somebody to sum themselves up and in medias res, right? In the middle of things. You're in the middle of your story, and so that's kind of a hard question, but I think you can handle it.
Yeah. I think that when I think about trying to summarize myself in a few words, it would probably be resilient or resilience.
Sure.
Optimistic.
Okay.
And curious. Those would be my three.
Well, let's take those three and let's kind of examine sort of your story, right? So that's why we're here, to hear your rebound story. So tell me about a time in your life that you seemed to be extremely tested or was very tested, or something that set you back a bit.
Sure. When I think about setbacks, dark times in my life, or valleys, as you say, with the peaks and valleys of life, there are two moments that really stick out, and that was my teen years, when I was younger, and then the second one would be just a few years ago, when my ex-wife and I separated and then divorced. Yeah. So, I've had other events in my life. I've had, failed businesses or a business. I've had, things that just didn't work out. But I would say that those are the two most notable and formative events that have taken place in my life. I'll glaze over the first one, but maybe more focus on the second one because I feel like it's a little more relevant. So, when as a teenager, I had dropped out of high school. I was involved in doing a lot of like drugs, skipping school, finally dropped out of school. That was in high school. And, I had some pretty dramatic shifts and changes in my life. And I had some people that kind of took me under their wing. They introduced me to Christianity and everything. And so it was a pretty dramatic switch and change. I ended up pretty much separating myself from all of my friends. I moved out of my mom's house and then moved into their house. They took me in and removed me from that environment, and it was pretty impactful and really set a huge trajectory into where I am now. The reason why I'm not focusing really on that in the Rebounds podcast is because I've told that story 100 times or 1,000 times about that rebound in my life. And the one with my past relationship with my ex-wife and how it has really trajected me to where I am now and the relationship that I have with my son. I think it's a little bit more formative, and maybe it'll resonate with someone else out there, since family issues and the family structure is really being attacked. I feel like today.
It is a very hard subject to broach. Divorce is an incredibly hard subject, and there are a lot of families that struggle from divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Take me back to some of those moments during this divorce that really kind of impacted your story.
Yeah, sure. So, with the failure of a marriage, I mean, I feel like the person that you choose to marry and then you being married to that person is one of the most important decisions and one of the most important things that a person can do in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to denigrate anyone who chooses not to get married or never does get married.
Sure.
But if you do happen to take the leap and get into that relationship, choosing the right person is so, so important. It's more important than any other decision that I feel like you're going to make. It's so much more important than, buying a house or choosing your job and career. Unfortunately, many people jump into relationships without thinking about that, and they go just based on feeling. And the last thing I'm going to do is try to offer some sort of relationship advice,
Right.
because that I'm not the one. But in that relationship, I was not the best man. I was not, in my own perspective, I feel like I was not a good husband to her, and I didn't really. I didn't show her the respect that she deserved as a human and as my wife and as the mother of my child. I know that in any situation there are multiple sides to the story and
Absolutely.
there are multiple dynamics. However, I can only answer for my own actions.
And that's why we're here. I
Yeah,
mean, not
yeah.
your actions, of
Yeah,
course, but
yeah,
we're
yeah.
here about your story. And so
Sure.
tell me a little bit about that journey. I mean, tell me at least tell me about how you come to terms with finding out, hey, I was responsible for some of this. What is my part in this? I think that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my own like personality idiosyncrasies. I don't know if that's the right word,
Sure.
if that's how it's used correctly, but I would probably say that I'm really great at communicating with people. Like I can connect with
Yeah.
people really well, but I'm real sometimes maybe flighty. I don't know if that's the right word or something, but there'll be times where I'm supposed to be somewhere, or maybe I am somewhere and I'm not going to communicate all of the details. And, so there were a lot of times when, my wife didn't know that I had a work thing that I was supposed to be at. I didn't tell her or whatever. That's very frustrating if, you
Sure.
expect someone to be home at a certain time and then they don't show up. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you. And, there's things like that that I had done. And like I said, there were times where I was just not a respectful person. I was selfish, and I, would try to pursue my own things without regard and respect to her wants and her needs and stuff like that. It definitely weared us down, and it took us to a place to where it was really difficult to reconcile the relationship. And so for the majority of the time that we were together, it was, I would say, not a positive experience. And, and not because of her, but it just, we held on as long as we could for our son.
Sure.
And, it just came to the point to where it wasn't going to be able to be tenable anymore. And that was a difficult time. So that was about 3 years ago, in 2022, was when we finally decided that it was time to go our separate ways.
Often I find in any relationship, whether it's a marriage or a work relationship or a friendship, there is a specific marker in time, and we often call it a power of moments, right? My friend, a bit of a mentor of myself, is Sheriff Chip Simmons, and he talks about these kind of power of moments. is there a powerful moment, or is there a specific time where you can think, hey man, this is fixing to go south on me. This relationship and this marriage in particular is going to go south. It looks like we're not going to be able to reconcile. Is there a time where was there a specific time, or maybe an event, or maybe a couple of events where this is like, oh man, I'm just not sure this is going to work out anymore for me?
Well, towards the end, it was one of those things to where, when you're basically living with someone and you're not talking to each other anymore, and you're not really part of each other's lives, and the only things that you discuss are the bills and the what we need to do for the child and stuff like that. Just kind of the basic necessities. It's there.
Yeah.
It's to reach that point. What I think what I have learned from just kind of talking to others is there are some people who have been in that state for a really, really long time, and they stay. Somehow, though, when their last child leaves the house and it's empty nest, that's usually the time when they go ahead and cut it. I think that we probably would have ended up being that way if we could have held on. We just couldn't make it that long.
It must be a lonely feeling. I mean, it must be a terribly lonely feeling and I do not experience this, thank God. But I, like you said, I think there are a lot of people out there that are in these types of relationships that seem, loveless. Maybe is the term that I hear oftentimes.
Sure.
That has to be a lonely feeling inside of a marriage. You're supposed to be connected to an individual, but you're not. I mean, is that trouble? I mean, how?
Yeah,
is that?
I've actually heard a saying, and I'm terrible at quoting things. So, but it's basically, being alone doesn't feel great, but what feels worse is when you're with someone and you still feel alone.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
And that's what we were experiencing. And I think that's what unfortunately, a lot of couples and partners feel like whenever they're holding on for whatever reason. Usually it's kids.
Yeah.
Or money.
Yeah. So at the time you're kind of going through this divorce, or you're fixing to go through this divorce, and you're at the chamber. Is that correct? You're
That's
working
correct.
for the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce.
Mm.
Tell me a little bit about your role there during that period.
So at that time, I was doing their digital media and their photography and videography, podcast production, whatever, all those things, and so it was. We were a pretty small team, and we tried to do a whole lot with what we had, and so it was pretty demanding on all of us on the small team. Now, one thing I do have to say is that through that time, though, it wore me down pretty badly. Not the job, but what was happening in my personal life. And fortunately, my boss at the time was more than willing to work with me. And there was a time during all of that when, actually before we separated, but it was kind of, I knew it was on the horizon kind of thing. My brother, who lived in Japan at the time, had died.
Oh, wow.
And
I'm sorry.
And it was one of those things to where there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know how his body was going to get transported back to the United States. He was currently serving in the Navy, and he was going to be buried at a very specific place in San Diego, California. And there was all these processes that had to happen, and I really had no idea when I was going to have to go to California. And it was one of those things to where I just, told my boss at the time, I was like, look, I don't know when I'm going, but I'm going to have to be gone for a week, and it's going to be very short notice. They're going to give me the green light. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Just whenever. And so, they really worked with me, and it was, net positive experience with all of that. And I was fortunate to have the job that I did have and work with the organization that was willing to work with me.
So it's interesting. So it's very interesting. So you're in a pretty tough situation with your marriage. You're fixing to face divorce, and I guess the way you describe it a little bit is that your work performance is eroded a bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you got a great boss that's
Mm.
given you some latitude, and thank God for great bosses that
Mhm,
understand that we all have rebound stories.
Right.
But let me ask you, there has to be at some point some sort of shift, because the guy I know today is much stronger than what I'm hearing here. So there must have been some sort of shift. And I don't know if it's because of the divorce or there's some sort of mindset change in you, but tell me a little bit about what kind of sparked, uh, this progress and how you moved forward. Tell me a little bit about how you moved forward from this.
Yeah, sure. So when I was going through the process of like we were moving out of the house,
Mm-hmm.
out of the marital home, neither one of us could really afford to buy out the other person, buy the home out
Right.
from the other person. And um, so I was moving out, and there's a lot of time for reflection.
Yeah.
And at that time, before we even had departed from the home, we had already um, set up to where each one of us would be responsible for our son each week.
Mm-hmm.
And, so there would be these off weeks where I wouldn't have my son at home. I would live at home and I wouldn't have my son with me. And it would just be
weird.
like you were talking about, very lonely, talk about
Yeah.
lonely. But I had a lot of reflection time. And one of the things that I got into was Stoic philosophy.
Really?
Yeah.
I
And
did
so
not know this.
so I started looking into Stoicism,
Yeah.
and reading works by like Marcus
Marcus
Aurelius,
Aurelius. Yeah, man.
Seneca, Epictetus,
Yeah.
and it was pretty impactful actually. Some of the teachings on just how to look at things. It really is all about mindset, change in mindset,
Yeah.
and how much of a difference that makes in someone's life, how much of a difference it makes in their successes, in their future. So much of it is based on mindset. It's not based on circumstances, factors, outside factors, but almost all of it comes down to a person's mindset, because that's what enables them to be able to overcome the obstacles, that enables them to think outside of the box, to try to get out of situations. And so Stoicism was one of those things that really kind of helped me pull out of that. And I'm still on that journey.
Yeah. There must have been a time, though, you're sitting there alone in a house that you felt like you built a family around, and now that turns out to not be true.
Mm-hmm.
You're reading some pretty in-depth philosophy for a guy that's not a philosophy student.
Yeah.
And so there you are. There must be a time or a passage or maybe a particular writing. You mentioned a couple of different thinkers. There must have been something that stood out to you, that kind of aha moment where you thought, oh man, Liko, this is kind of your own doing to some degree. I mean, certainly
Yeah.
everybody has two sides
Yeah.
of the story, like you
Yeah.
say, but there has to be a point where you say, and the reason I ask you this is because oftentimes I look at my own relationships with individuals and I think, I never judge their behavior first. I always judge mine. So where did I go wrong? And I
Right,
think a
right.
lot of leaders, where did I go wrong in this? But is there a time where you thought, man, this reading really stands out to me, and this is where I went wrong on this? Is there?
Well, it was, it wasn't difficult for me to, pin all the different things throughout our relationship that I did incorrectly and that I did wrong. But I think the important thing was me having a change in mindset on, okay, so I'm in this situation. The chances that the dynamics of this particular situation, it was fairly positive that the relationship was not going to be mended. So it was really like, well, what am I going to do now? What's the next step?
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on all of the past, instead of focusing on even the present, because none of that was going to change the circumstance, and it wasn't going to make anything better. It was just going to make me more sad and more mad and more lonely moving into the future.
Yeah.
So I really needed to get out of that. So with you saying, like, was there a specific passage or anything? So this is kind of paraphrased, but one of the Stoic philosophers, his name's Epictetus.
Yeah.
He basically says it's not what happens to you, but it's how you react.
Yeah.
And so, with everyone has stuff in their life that's terrible, that sucks, that is painful. I think that pain is one of those things in your life that, anyone who's alive experiences some sort of pain.
Yeah.
And they experience a set of unfortunate events in their life. If you don't experience unfortunate events in your life, then you're probably not living.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out, okay, well, it's not what happens to me. It's not how bad or sad the situation is, but what am I going to do about it? How am I going to react to it?
Yeah.
And so I think that is kind of the thought process that I had that helped me kind of move forward.
Yeah. I think, I hope people take from this podcast, and I hope people in general understand every single day that they interact with people that are going through the same types of pain and hurt they're going through. And I think for a lot of times we don't realize that everybody has a story to tell. I think we feel like our story is the most unique story. Our pain is the most unique pain. But it turns out we're all suffering from some sort of pain, and we're trying to all overcome some obstacle. I recently heard somebody say we're all just walking each other home. And I think that's true. My friend Joe said that recently, and I believe that's true. We're all just walking each other home at the end of the day. It's kind of like at the end of school, but this is really life. We're just walking each other home here, and we all have a shared story, sometimes of pain. But let me ask you this question here, because it never fails me when I hear these stories that there has to be people around them that encourage them, that support them, that help them make that transition from, hey, this is my valley to where I'm going, which is my peak. Do you have people like that in your life? Did you have people during this period in your life that were helping you out?
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister, she lives here. She's 6 years older than me, and she was there. She was there to help. Just even if I just needed to vent, she was there, and she was very supportive. And anything that I asked of her, she was, willing to do for me. And she's had a very challenging life herself. She's been through so much, and she's had her own rebounds in her life. And so I think that she could see what I was going through, and she knew how painful something like that was. And so my sister first, I know a lot of people, but I only have a few friends. And the few friends that I have, they're supportive, if I needed anything from them. One of the things is no matter what, because of my friends and family, I know no matter how bad it gets for me, that I'll always have a place to stay. Yeah. I'll always have a meal to eat, and I'll always have clothes on my back. And if worse comes to worse, I know that I have a place to take my son to be safe. Yeah. And, it's taken, you don't get to choose your family, but you do get to choose your friends. Yeah, man. And the core of my friends, I trust them all with my life. Yeah. And I would trust them with my son's life. And they're just high quality people. Yeah. Which has taken many years to curate. Yeah. But the number's still small. Yeah. Of people that I can truly call my friend. Another person is Todd at the chamber. And when I worked for him, he showed so much grace.
And that's the local chamber here in Pensacola, Florida.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that was my job for 7 years.
Yeah.
I worked there for 7 years, and I worked for him for, I guess, 5 of those years, 4 or 5 of those years. And he just showed so much grace and understanding, and he was extremely supportive, and he gave me a lot of leeway. And, he's been there before. And man. His situation was not the same as mine, but he's just a good guy, good boss, good person. Yeah. And I'm really, really grateful for him. And one person that I would like to kind of highlight out of that whole process was when I was moving out of the marital home, I was trying to find a place to live. And our finances were like up in the air. So I didn't know how much kind of liquid cash I would have at the time. And there was just so many things that moving around. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm working on a limited budget and I just need to find a place that's just big enough for me and my son. And I put out a post on Facebook and I was just like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, whatever. And someone private messaged me, someone who I'd never met in person, but we were connected as friends on Facebook. And it was because we just had so many mutuals. It was one of those things you get connected. And her name's Kimberly.
Okay.
And she is a real estate brokerage. I'm not really sure how all this works, but she has a team of people who work for her in real estate. And she reached out and she said, hey, I've got this place for you. I was going to like renovate it and flip it basically and make it like a short-term rental, but I haven't had time to get to it. It's not ready for that. If you want to come take a look at it, whatever, we'll work something out. Yeah. And she sent some photos and I was looking at the pictures. I'm like, oh, I don't know about all this. But then I went over to the place and I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to work. Yeah. It looked better in person than it did in the photos, which is rare.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a real blessing. She allowed me to stay there, and the lease terms were very generous and very affordable. Yeah. And I ended up living there for I think almost 2 years.
Wow.
2 years or a year. 2 years, a year and a half, something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience, and that was so helpful. And I don't know if she knows how helpful that was. Yeah, it was this little tiny house, 500 square foot house, and it was in the middle of 7 acres of woods. Nice. It was just really peaceful. Sure. Back there, and it was something that I really needed at that time.
Had you thought about becoming a Stoic philosopher back there? All that, and we kind of joke, but I mean, you're like Thoreau. You got a cabin in the woods kind of deal, and so you got an opportunity to read and write. And, think about things. How long is this story? And let me ask you, from beginning to end, when did you feel like, oh man, I'm fixing to go through this divorce, or things are not going well, to today? How many years are we talking?
Yeah, so that was the beginning of 2022. Okay. And now it's the end of 2025.
It's about 3 years, give or take. And so there must have been opportunities for you to kind of build small wins along the process. Mm-hmm. What were those? Tell me about those steps and tell me some of those small wins and tell me how, because it's obvious that you have rebounded very well from that story. We've had an opportunity to work together for a number of weeks, and we've known each other for a while. And so tell me about how these kind of small wins came about, or maybe a step-by-step process, or tell me how you got to the right side of these decisions today.
Sure. I mean, okay, so if we were to break it down into like different sections, the first one was the mindset. Yeah. I feel like any time someone is trying to improve any sort of thing in their life, it's the mindset is what needs to change first, because that's how you become disciplined, or that's how you make better decisions. So, it's kind of like the thing, like you see the people who have the New Year's resolutions when they want to get in shape, or they buy the workout machine. This is going to be great. But what they're doing is they're trying to fill it with something without changing their mindset. Yeah. They get the easy button. They're like, want a quick fix or whatever, but because they haven't changed mindset, then they're not building any new habits, and nothing's changing. So the first thing was I had to change my mindset. I had to, make sure that I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I had to make sure that I was always looking forward and really trying to figure out, okay, well, it's not just me anymore. It's a path that I have to make for my son and I. Yeah. And he's looking up at me, and he's wondering what I'm going to do. Yeah. And at that time, he's only like 5 or 6 years old or whatever. But he's looking at me, waiting on my decisions. So that had a lot to do with it as well. That was definitely the motivator. So then it was refocus. Okay, I've changed my mindset. Now I'm going to refocus. I'm going to figure out, okay, well, what's important and what's not. And then once I was able to refocus and figure out, okay, well, some of these things can fall away, and then some of these things really need to become priority, I can start to plan. And in my planning, I I was like, well, how can I prioritize my role as a father
Yeah.
and deprioritize all my other things? At that time I was working at the chamber and I was doing things for them. Is that a priority in my life? It's an important thing, but it's not the priority. The priority is this boy
Yeah.
that is, looking up at me, and I'm his father and he's my son. That's the priority. Everything else has got to come after that. Okay. Well, then what can I do that I can continue to make him the priority? Well, I've got to take the things that are just important and maybe just switch them into other things that are important.
Yeah.
And that's where the change happened. So one of the most dramatic things that has happened through all of this was I ended up leaving the day job, and now I'm on my own, working for myself. And that's where we are today. And a lot of that has to do with me just wanting to be able to plan my life around being a father instead of my fatherhood being planned around my work.
Your relationship with him must have changed almost overnight when you started making that shift to I'm Liko in a bad relationship to I am Liko and my top priority is my child. That had to have had a shift in y'all's relationship, or at least, if nothing else, in your mental state. Is that would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that's true. I would say that with some introspection, the unfortunate part of that is that it should have always been
Yeah.
him and my wife, my family,
Yeah.
that should have been the priority, and everything should have been planned around that. And that's one of the things I was not doing.
Yeah.
I was planning my family around my life when I should have been planning my life around my family.
Yeah.
And so, that's a hard lesson learned. But again, I can't look back
Right.
and get stuck in that rut of thinking about all of that. I just need to move forward, and I need to make the best of tomorrow and the day after.
If you had an opportunity to sit across the table from Liko the day or the night that you looked at, because everybody has that telling point in their life where they're like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this problem anymore, whatever this problem is. If you had an opportunity to look across the table and talk to that Liko of 3 years ago, what would you say to that individual?
Let's see. I'd probably say a couple things.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is that if the love that you're experiencing is a noun, then you're loving yourself. And if the love that you are experiencing is a verb, then you're loving others. And so to focus on loving others instead of yourself. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is there's a saying, and this is Marcus Aurelius, I believe, memento mori. And it's, you could leave life right now, so let that determine what you do, say, or think. And one of the things that I've really kind of clung on to was this saying or short phrase, the last time, or just last time. And it's one of those things to where you never know when it's the last time that you're going to say I love you to the person that you love or that you're in a relationship with. You don't know when the last time that is, when you'll exchange that. You don't know when the last time that you're going to see that close friend of yours. You don't know when it's going to be the last time that your child runs up to you and wants you to pick them up. But there is a last time eventually, but you just don't know it. So in my interactions with people, but especially in the time that I spend with my son, I know that everything that we do, it might be the last time that we do that thing. Now, hopefully it's not tragic. Yeah. That God forbid something bad happen to one of us. Yeah. But even in the things that are not tragic, like I said, I don't know when the last time is going to be when he doesn't want me to pick him up. Yeah. Or I don't know when the last time is that he's going to want to sit down on the couch with me and lay his head on my shoulder. So every time is the last time, and I cherish every moment that I have with him, with the people that I love, with my family, and with my friends. And so I would try to tell myself those two things. The first thing about love, and then the second thing about there's always a last time with everything, so treat it like it's the last time.
How would you describe success today opposed to how you describe success 5 years ago?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Success 5 years ago would have been, what direction or trajectory is my career going? And now I define success as the relationship that I have with my family and the people who are closest to me. That to me is success. There are millionaires out there who are miserable, who have no family relationships, who have no close friends, and that to me is not successful. And then there are people out there that don't have much of anything. They don't have a lot of possessions, and they might even be working, their hands to the bone and not have a whole lot of time because they're just trying to make it. But the relationships that they have with their family, with their kids or their parents, their grandparents, their siblings, those are solid. And then with their friends, meaning that they have friends and their friends can say good things about them, that to me is what success is.
What habits do you practice daily that keep you grounded in that practice?
So for my mindset of trying to stay focused as a father, I ask myself every day, what am I supposed to be doing right now for me and my son? What am I supposed to be doing? Sometimes it's work related. Sometimes it's something in the house that needs to be done. And I have a very forgetful type of brain. I have to write things down. I need to use tools.
Sure.
I need reminders.
That's right.
I need them, or I'll totally forget them. So, I go through the mental list, and then I make them into a physical list of things that I need to do to try to stay on top of life. I think I'm only a single parent every other week.
Yeah.
And that's even difficult. So shout out to all the single parents who do it full time. You all are amazing, and it's tough, and you can do this. So that's what I say. But so I do that. I try to spend some time in meditation to try to figure out, okay, well, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
For some more self-reflection and introspection. And that helps me. Because a lot of times people won't be critical.
Sure.
They won't tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it takes a really good friend or a close family member sometimes to tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah. Often.
The tough love kind of thing.
If you had one piece of advice to share with people that are either in a rebound story currently or they're moving to that, what type of piece of advice would you give? What would a great piece of advice somebody's given you in the past maybe?
There was many years ago, my mother, she had these two guys that were renting rooms from us in our house. And the reason why she was doing it was because she was just trying to make ends meet. Again, this comes down to, the single parents out there. My mother, for the most part, raised me as a single mom. And so we lived in this trailer. So it wasn't even like a nice house, right? We were living in this trailer, and but we had 2 extra rooms in there. And so she rented the 2 rooms out to these guys, and they were from Texas. They were like these, these guys that did like cable line installations or something, for cable television. And they were a little rough around the edges. And I remember one of them coming up to me, and I was 14 or something, like 13, 14 years old. And he was like, "Liko, you need to learn one thing, man. No matter who you are, no matter how many people you know, you can only count your true friends on one hand."
That's the truth.
And I've never let go of that. And it's absolutely 100% true. Now, maybe during certain parts of your life, those 5 people change.
Yeah.
But at any given time, I don't think that I've ever had more than 5 real friends. And I'm the kind of person that believes that you are an average of the people that you spend the most time with.
I agree. 100%.
And so again, like I said, I've curated my close friends over the past couple decades, and I'm very, very picky on who I call my friend. And so shout out to my close friends because they're a really important part of my life, even though we're all so busy, we don't see each other enough.
Sure.
But that would be the one thing that I would say. That's advice that I've received that has stuck with me.
We've had a great conversation. We're having a great conversation. We're kind of wrapping this up here.
Mhm.
And so just a couple of more things, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. If there's somebody at home today and they are sitting on their couch or they're listening as they're driving, or maybe they're working in an industry that they're looking to get out of, what would be something you would say to them? They feel like they're stuck in their own story. What would you say to them to help them move out of that story to their own rebound story, and that kind of you've had?
Yeah, sure. Do it now.
Nice.
Do not wait. Do
Yeah.
it now. Seneca says they lose the day in waiting, in the night fearing the dawn.
Amen.
So I'm a professional procrastinator.
Yeah, man. Same.
And procrastination is a result of entitlement, and it's a result of feeling like just being lazy.
Yeah.
It's laziness and entitlement.
Amen.
And then I think that I can accomplish it if I just wait. Well, tomorrow is like it never gets here kind of thing.
What do they say? Procrastinators unite tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So it's do it now. That's
Yeah.
what I say. And that was one of the things that I had to do is I had to make the decision. Okay, I need to do it now. I need to change now, not tomorrow. Don't wait till New Year's Day for your New Year's resolution.
yeah.
Change now. Do it now.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I think that's a strong, great piece of advice to give to somebody. Do it now. Don't wait. I think a lot of our stories are like, hey, I'll get around to that. I'll move around to that. And I think a lot of those people are just stuck in that. But I think people like yourself and others that we are going to talk with here on this podcast have that sense of urgency in their life, that this is my life and I need to take control of it. Liko, I'm not going to end this podcast without asking this question, which I think is something worth asking. What is your personal definition of the comeback story?
Sure. There's going to be another one.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be another setback.
Yeah.
If you're alive, it's coming.
Great.
Get ready.
That's
it's
right.
coming. There's going to be another setback. So success is not the end, just part of the journey.
Yeah.
And you see these people who have reached the top and then they don't know what to do when they reach the top. They get depressed.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do when you reach the pinnacle. It's kind of like the same thing when you get you get people who they're going to get married or something like that, and then there's all that build up, and then you're like, okay, we're married. What do we do now?
Right.
Okay, mission accomplished. Right?
You're right.
But the win has nothing to do with how high you get.
Yeah.
The win is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
What did it all look like?
Yeah.
Because it's going to go up and down, and no matter where you are, if you're on top of the world right now, it's coming. You're going to fall again.
Yeah.
So that's what I say, that success is not the end, just part of the journey.
Yeah, man. Listen, Liko, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story, for being my initial guest or my inaugural guest on Rebounds podcast. something that we've been working on for a number of weeks, and I think we're going to continue to have great stories told out of the studio. For those of you that do not know, our friend Liko Crump here has his own studio in Pensacola, Florida at Collab Studio here. Take a look at him, look him up on Facebook. He's on all the social medias, Instagram, and get an opportunity to meet Liko. Don't just let this story be the last time you hear about who he is. He's a wonderful man. He's an incredible community leader and absolutely a wonderful father. Thank you for your time today, Liko.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing what's going to happen with Rebounds podcast.
Thanks.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to Rebounds podcast with Ronnie Rivera. If you have an opportunity, please review our show notes and support our sponsors, Blush and Needle Society, Meredith Bush Law Firm, Youths Left Behind. Also, please support us on our social media platforms, Instagram and YouTube. We'll see you next time on Rebounds Podcast.